Joe Valente, welcome to Talking Pies.
Thank you, Nigel. Cheers. Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's still just about Happy New Year, isn't it?
Thanks for having me down. It's quite emotional watching that clip, actually. Every time I see it, it sort of gets me right there.
Well, I bet it does, because you say yourself that you came from a very modest background with no particular advantages.
Yep.
And first question I'm going to ask you, what did you get expelled from school for?
I really hated authority, I think. Right. And actually, that's gone on to serve me quite well as an entrepreneur. The teacher wanted me to do it their way, and I wanted to do it my way. So I really struggled with being graded on subjects that I already knew that I wasn't any good at. There's no point telling me I'm a failure at art when I know I can only draw stickmen. So I kind of didn't really get why the institution was trying to train me up in that way, and I didn't like it, and I wanted to leave, and I wanted to go hang around with my friends and skive, and that's exactly what I chose to do.
So they asked you to leave?
Yeah, they asked me to leave, yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, there are people that get expelled from school and don't do well in life.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, there are quite a lot of successful entrepreneurs who just don't kind of fit in to the normal constraints. So you're out of school, but you decide you want to get out. And I read that you actually read a book of Alan Sugar's, and part of because you were an apprentice plumber. That was the trade that you were learning, but somehow Alan Sugar intervened before.
Yeah, no, this was fast forward when I was 22 years of age. I just came back from Australia. I'd read Lord Sugar's book, and that's what made me quit my 50 grand a year gas engineer job, take out a £15,000 Tesco loan, and start a business with no plan, no strategy, no knowledge or acumen.
Why did they lend you the money?
Because I took it out as a home development loan, a home improvement loan, and used it for the business on the back of the salary. Sorry, Tesco, but that's what I did.
Folks, advocating any of this. But
I raised the finance that way, which was great. But, to just rewind to a point that you were saying about being expelled from school, and a lot of people don't actually achieve when that happens to them. They can go down the wrong path. I was very close to doing that myself. I was hanging around with guys 5 or 6 years older than me that were going nowhere in life. And I remember when I walked out of the headmaster's office with my mum, and she looked down at me crying and was just like, "Son, what are you going to do now? Your life's over. You're finished." And my dad had left when I was 13 years of age. And I remember just thinking, actually, Mum, don't worry. One day I'm going to make you so proud. This isn't the end for me. This is just the beginning. But I also realised very early on that the cavalry wasn't coming. Nobody was coming to save me. And actually, if I wanted to change my future, if I wanted to change my stars, change my destiny, I had to do something at 15 years of age that was going to change my future. And that's when I went to work for free for a local plumber for a year, and that got me off the streets, it got me into work, and that's where my career started. But that was a fantastic lesson for me, and since that day I've never relied on anybody to help me, and I've been the one that's driven every decision that I've made.
So you set up your own company.
Yeah.
And it goes well?
Yeah, it went really, really well. I came back from Australia and my mum bought me Lord Sugar's book between Christmas and New Year. I read it cover to cover, bearing in mind being expelled. I hadn't read a book for so long, and I loved The Apprentice. For years I wanted to go on it, and I couldn't put it down, and it changed me that much that I saw how Lord Sugar had come from a council estate in London, had gone on to be able to build billionaire wealth in one lifetime. And I'd always believed that the successful people had something that I didn't. They were given an opportunity that I wasn't. And Lord Sugar's journey showed to me that, no, actually, we can all achieve. We're all given the same start in life. Almost all of us are given the same start in life. And so that's what allowed me to quit my job, £50,000 a year at 22, take out a £15,000 loan, and go on to start Improgas off the back of his book. And then fast forward to the time I was 25, I was doing $500,000 a year, applied for The Apprentice, and that same Lord Billionaire, the book that I'd read of his, bought half of my company for £250,000.
Yeah. So how did you get on The Apprentice? You were clearly a Sugar fan, and he was clearly an inspiring figure to you, and that's terrific. And I think, I hope that in turn you can be an inspiring figure.
I hope so too.
To people who don't come from privileged backgrounds, to say you can get on and achieve and do things. But how did you get on the programme?
So it was quite a funny story, actually. I came into my home on January the 9th, 2015. My business was doing well, but I'd levelled off. I was a plumber that had started a plumbing business. I didn't have any business education or training and no mentors. And I kind of lost my way, and I didn't know what to do next. I needed mentorship. I needed cash for growth, and I wanted exposure to get my brand out there. And I came in that evening, 9 o'clock, got my phone out. Lord Sugar's Facebook page came up. The final call for The Apprentice, only 24 hours left to apply. And that very moment, I know the universe had sent me a sign. It was sent from the gods.
This was your moment.
This was my moment. And then as soon as I put my details in, it just escalated from there, took off from there, you know.
Were you a bit daunted going to do The Apprentice? Because it is, I mean, you know, the full glare, obviously Alan Sugar here, Donald Trump in America.
Yep.
I mean, I watched the programme. I've watched many of the programmes, and I can see the nerves of many. I mean, were you slightly overawed by it?
I don't want to sound too overconfident, but I was so convinced that it was my destiny to win from the day that I started, that I knew that I was going on the right path. I remember when my mum dropped me off at the train station, she said, "See you soon, son." I said, "Next time you see me, I'm going to be the winner of the show." And I remember her looking back at me thinking, "Joe, I know that you're confident, but you've got a challenge ahead of you, right?" And I'll never forget the moment when I came out on the You're Hired show. It was the proudest moment of my life. I walked out on the stage and I saw my mum in the front row crying, so proud. Again. And I was just like, I've done this for you, Mum. I've shown you that I've turned my life around. This is your moment. Be proud of what I've achieved. She texted me like a year later, actually, kind of when the show was coming back on, and she said, "Who'd have thought you'd have won? Actually, Joe, you knew." And then I was like, boom, that was the time she realised that actually I'm not crazy, and that what I say I'm going to do, I will actually go on to achieve. So that was a pretty cool moment for me as well.
You see, it's clear to me that, well, I mean, obviously self-belief in spades, clearly, which is important.
Yeah.
Not too much, but it's important. But one thing that does strike me, you know, you've had a difficult upbringing, school doesn't work.
Yeah.
You're out at 15. But the one thing that you had that I sense that perhaps a lot of people from that background and those difficulties don't have is you had something called ambition.
Yeah.
And do enough young people today have ambition?
No, they don't. And I think that many people from a challenging background, they don't have any shining examples of success. Now, I was very lucky to have my uncle. You know, I owe a lot of my success to that man. He was a very, very successful businessman. And when I saw him once or twice a year, he would show up in these suits, in these brand new cars. And I looked at him and I thought, how does one man achieve that level of success versus my dad, who hadn't? And I thought, that is the guy that I'm going to be like. That's the guy that I want to become. And I saw that somebody very close to me had been able to, you know, achieve with their lives.
It's a role model, really.
Yeah, it was a role model, 100%. Probably my first role model. And, you know, that made me see that I could break the mold. As well as Lord Sugar's book and everything else, it made it more personal to me because he was my blood, he was my family. So that really, really helped. And I think there's not a lot of people that have relatable figures that they can look up to or aspire to become that can make it real for them because they know them, if that makes sense, right?
What is the ambition? What was the ambition? Was it to have those cars? Was it to have the flash holidays? Was it to have, was it the material possession?
It was my mum worked extremely hard for us growing up. She worked 3 or 4 jobs to pay for us and did everything. She committed and sacrificed, you know, many, many years for us. And my first ambition in starting my business was to put my mum into retirement. I was able to achieve that when I was around 28 years of age. And that was one of my most proudest moments, actually. So it was for her first and foremost. But it literally was to prove a point, not to the world, but to myself, that I have so much potential to go on and become you know, somebody so incredible that's going to change the world. My mum used to laugh and say, you know, I say to her, the world's going to know my name. I'm going to leave a legacy for 1,000 years. You know, I'm going to make an impact on this planet. There's only one opportunity to do so. And I still very much am on that same path. And so I just feel there's so much untapped potential in all of us. And I don't want to be laying on the deathbed, hopefully many years from now, because I intend to live to 100. Hopefully many years from now, looking back and saying,
why didn't I have a...
regret.
Yeah, no,
why didn't I do it? I can't allow that to happen, you know?
No, I agree with that. I mean, I took a very different route to you. And mine was a political mission.
Yeah.
You know, and I often people say, why on earth are you doing it? You must be mad. And I thought, years to come, if I don't have a go at this, I'll never, ever forgive myself.
100%.
You see that chance in life, you've got to go for it. After The Apprentice, profile, you have one or two ups and downs with businesses, as everybody does.
Yeah.
But tell us where you are now and what you're doing, because it's really interesting.
So I train construction businesses how to grow, right? So after I got in business with Lloyd Sugar, I was in business with him for a couple of years. I bought him out, first apprentice ever, to do that. And then we were doing about $1.5 million a year at that time. I wanted to take it national. He wanted me to go slow. I wanted to go big. So I said, look, let me buy you out and I'll take on all of the risk. And if it goes wrong, it's on my shoulders, not on your record. And so I went on to build the largest independent boiler installation company in the UK. By the time I was 29 years of age, we had a 10 million turnover, 100 staff, and I was a plumber. I was a businessman running a trades business at that point, not a tradesman running a trades business. So my level of business acumen had leveled up, but also at the same time, I was learning as I was going and going through all this level of growth. It was having to acquire and learn all these skills made it very difficult. And I had to sell my business. It wasn't under the greatest circumstances. But when I exited in January of 2020 at 30 years of age, almost having to kind of start again, really, I decided to go into something that I was passionate about. That's training and development. And I looked at the construction industry and I said, what was it that allowed me to make mistakes in business? That was because I was a tradesman originally running a trades business. At 22, I was an expelled from school, qualified plumber that took out a 15 grand loan and started a business. By the time I was 29, I had 100 people working for me, $1 million a month in sales, a national company. And to level up that much, I've acquired a level of skills through success and failure in business that can be taught to other businesses out there and give them the roadmap to success. Hairdressers start hairdressing businesses, accountants start accounting practices.
What is the one thing? I mean, you've got the experience.
Yeah.
You've had the ups, you've had the downs, and anybody in business does.
Yeah.
But what is the one big thing that you can bring to a business?
Knowledge, skill, experience. Again, I've seen both success and failure. I've had success for so many years. At one point, everything I touched turned to gold, that when actually I had really challenging times in business, I was so underprepared for what the downside looked like that I hadn't had an opportunity to experience that. Now when I train businesses, I can look and see immediately where they're about to fall down. And at the Trade Mastermind, which is our construction company, in 2 years I've taken it from a startup in a pandemic to 3 million in sales. We've got 22 staff now. I've created 22 jobs in a pandemic in this training company. We're the first in the space in construction to train. So we're pioneering a new industry. We've acquired 1,500 construction clients across the UK. We've launched a recruitment business, Trade Recruit. We've launched a marketing agency recently, Valente Media, and the Trade Mastermind is just going from strength to strength. We've taken those businesses under the Trade Group now, and I intend to take that hopefully to £100 million valuation in the next 3 years by the time I'm 35.
You're not short of ambition. You're not short of ambition, which is a good thing.